Hello, my name is Joe Wallace, and I serve as the CEO and Chief Innovation Officer of the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership. I am proud to have been selected, along with Valerie Powers-Smith of SBEMP Attorneys, to host the 9-part webinar series on the critical industries to the economy of Greater Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley. Thus far, Valerie and I have engaged with the movers, the shakers, the influencers, and the leaders in tourism and hospitality, health and wellness, arts and entertainment, education, real estate, retail and restaurants, nonprofits and philanthropy, and government. These business clusters have all played vital roles in the growth of the Coachella Valley, and we certainly hope that when this pandemic is behind us, that they will emerge as prosperous once again. The last topic in the Palm Springs Life CVEP SBEMP Webisode series is about the future of the economy of the Coachella Valley, and the focus is on diversifying our economy so that we become more essential, so when the next unforeseen surprise comes along, we are not as negatively impacted as we have been by the pandemic. Tourism, that is directly or indirectly responsible for roughly half of our job base, is the hardest hit business sector in this nation. From Hawaii to Las Vegas to Palm Springs, we have all suffered in our businesses because of this. After what we've experienced in 2020 and continue to suffer from, there is no denying the fact that diversification of our economy is a necessary condition to mitigate another future shock. Oddly, the virus of the century has provided us not only with a not so subtle reminder of our vulnerability due to having substantially all of our eggs in one basket, but it also is the catalyst to grab the bull by the horns, to do the right thing and take optimal advantage of the opportunity of the century that it has presented us with. At the CVEP Economic Summit in 2018, we produced a video at what our valley could become in the future by embracing education, technology, artificial intelligence, automation, environmental science, and logistics. Come with us for a fresh look at that future that can be ours if we only invest, focus, and we have the persistence to elevate our region as it should be elevated. Let's start with a clip from CVEP's 2018 video.
Hello, my name is Kane, and this is Emma. We came back to 2018 to remind ourselves just how far the Coachella Valley has come. Don't let the past keep you from the future you want. Oh great, Netflix just crashed again. I forgot that used to happen in 2018. Now, let's check out what it's like in 2050. Here we are at the world-renowned Cal State University Palm Desert, where in 2018, community leaders had the vision to embed a cybersecurity program in the digital iHub. The state-of-the-art bandwidth and Internet of Things platforms launched the campus onto a growth path that became the integrated learning and innovation centers that you see today. Programs in the leading-edge technology sectors raised the visibility of Greater Palm Springs to levels that allowed us to attract elite students and ambitious entrepreneurs into our region. And boy, did the investment dollars follow.
Let's start out and take a look at where we were in February before COVID came and hit us. We had 187,218 people on payrolls in the Coachella Valley. That doesn't include entrepreneurs who are not on payrolls, but that's how many people were working. The state of that business was something that helped exacerbate what happened from the pandemic. 25% of our jobs, full 25%, are directly in leisure and hospitality. The average wage in leisure and hospitality is $27,747. The second largest employer is retail trade, which also is largely dependent upon hospitality because the tourists come in and they buy things. Retail trade's average wage is $31,288,000 a year. The highest paying sector in the Coachella Valley, the highest, is government. Working for local government employs 10.9% of us, and the average is $55,814 a year. What's missing is technology. Above government should have been engineering, accounting, the kinds of businesses that use STEM degrees, because a brand new engineer, 22 years old, straight out of college, a little over 100,000. If they go to the Bay Area, it can be as much as 200,000. So what we're missing is the high-end jobs. And that's how we want to diversify our economy. We want to diversify into businesses and jobs and entrepreneurs who are vital, who are essential. They can work from home. Everything works out for them. And guess what? They're high-value, high-wage type people. This is the kind of things that will help everything that we have. Looking back at what COVID-19 did to employment in the Coachella Valley, prior to February, we had a 7.2% unemployment rate. By the early April, it was 33.8%. It's one of the largest hits in the nation. We've recovered about a third of what we lost, as the rest of California has. So right now, our unemployment rate fluctuates between 20 and 25%, and that's very dependent on whether we're in the red tier or in the purple tier, which we were put back into last week. That snapback has been estimated by most economists in tourism and hospitality to be a 4 to 5 year quest. It's going to be a long time before we get right back to where we were before this thing started. Automation trends have accelerated. 10 years ago, they didn't have kiosk. Now almost everybody has kiosk. Since people are not allowed to go to work, these companies have to continue to operate. And they do that by investing in automation, which replaces those jobs. And so there's going to be people who had jobs that whenever they're allowed to come back, the job won't be there for them because a robot's doing the job. That was already in motion, but it is accelerated because of this. 50% of our jobs in the Coachella Valley have been in retail, restaurants, personal services, and social services. Most of that is low pay, and none of it was deemed to be essential. So most of these people were sent home. 30 to 50% of the businesses that were here before, and there were about 16,000 businesses, are expected to fail or to be reduced in size dramatically. We did a study at CVEP on the number of jobs that can actually work from home. Nationwide, given the mix of the job base for the whole country, 38% of the population can work from home. In the Coachella Valley, that number's 31%. That doesn't sound like a big difference, but that 7% difference is the difference in a 7.2% unemployment rate whenever COVID is over, and a 14% unemployment rate when COVID is over. That could be a permanent 7% of the population that has to change jobs, reskill, and do better. But let me make this very clear. The recovery of the Coachella Valley is utterly dependent upon getting back as many of those tourism jobs and as much of that tourism revenue that we can possibly get back, because that's where the taxes come from to make the investments that we need to divest ourselves into other industries. You know, some of the things that we can do for job growth here, the recovery jobs, the snapback, but it's not going to come all the way back, and it's not going to be very fast because of the restrictions and also of the fear. This has created a fear in people that people never had, a fear of leaving home, a fear of, interacting face to face with people. You got to keep people at 6 feet, and, maybe it's safer if it's 8 feet, but we've got to stay away from human beings. It's not natural to us, but it's going to impact us for years. Entrepreneurship is always what brings back economies, and it won't be any different this time. When one store can't make it, somebody will come in behind them and they'll start another store in the same place, and they'll get capitalized, they'll move forward, they'll hire people. Life will get better. Attracting things. A lot of people don't know it. CVEP has attracted over a dozen companies to our iHub facility in Palm Springs over the last 9 years. Where are they coming from? They're not coming from the Northeast. They're not coming from the Middle America. They're coming from the California coast. These are people who very early on were not pleased with the fact that, entry-level housing is $1 million, that a commute takes 2 hours. So we are aggressively going after small companies that can do their business here, that can prosper here, that will bring in the technical expertise. Telecommuting is one of the golden opportunities that the virus has brought to us. These people, I call them refugees from coastal California. They can come here, they can enjoy our lifestyle, they can do their work, and if they don't want to leave the house, they don't have to. But if they do want to leave the house, guess what? We have enough restaurants and businesses here to support a larger population than we actually have. So they have a lot of things that they can do, and they can still get over to the coast, visit their friends, maybe talk their friends into moving out here. But telecommuters coming to this location is a big part of our possible recovery. We want to target them. We want to bring in people as telecommuters who upgrade our workforce, who raise the educational attainment of the region by their very presence. They will increase the median household income by the fact that their jobs pay more and they make more things happen for others. It will desensitize future shocks, and these are jobs that are already essential to somebody that's not here. So they're not going to get shut down if another pandemic comes along or another ugly surprise comes along. We want to attract people who come here to be better, and they come here and make us better by their presence. And the last thing I want to address in this, and this is a statewide thing, but we suffer from it as well, and I call it the Elon Musk effect. It's about retaining the talent that you have and keeping the wealth that's developed in California, and retaining the intelligent people and the high-value people in the Coachella Valley and keeping their wealth here so it can work for the people of the Coachella Valley. As many know, Elon Musk got into a visible tiff with the Alameda County supervisors and the governor of California. He sent out a tweet in April and says, "I will own no house." Everybody thought, okay, well, it's Elon, he's going down another tangent here. But he has sold all of his houses. 4 of them were in the Los Angeles area, so he does not own a house anymore. The Gigafactory, the one that we tried to get to come down here because of the lithium deposits at the Salton Sea, it went to Nevada. Why? 0 state income tax. 0. The truck factory, the big nice new, mega truck that he's going to make, is going to be built in Austin, Texas. Texas has 0 state income tax. So Elon Musk has a contract as the CEO of Tesla. His contract has a provision in it that over the next several years, he could be awarded $50 billion, yes, that's with a B, in bonuses. $50 billion in bonuses. If he stays in California and they move forward with increasing the rate on the millionaire's tax to 16.4%, given what California already taxes and what they're proposing to tax, Elon can stay here and he can take $8.4 billion of those dollars and send them to Sacramento. If he does what I believe he will do, which is to establish a residence in Texas, vote in Texas, he will not be spending any of those $50 billion on state income taxes. So I wish that we had a big crowd here because I always like to take a show of hands. Are there any of you who would not move to Texas for 3 years for $8.4 billion? I've never seen a hand go up when I asked that question, and I've asked it 3 times now. What if it was 8.4 million? Is there anybody that would not move to Texas for 3 years for $8.4 million? The reason I take 1,000 off of Elon's number is because there are a lot of people in California who are sitting on stock options that are vested that have $50 million in gains that they could take. And they have the same option to move off to some of these other states to escape these high taxes. And for those of you who don't know it, this has been going on forever. There are businesses that set people up with apartments in Florida, which also has a 0 state income tax, that help big tech companies, people avoid taxation on their stock option gains. So we have to fight the Elon Musk effect to keep the proven talent and the proven wealth in our state. This is some of the hurdles that we need to overcome in diversifying the Coachella Valley. But California is still a place that you can come out here, you can start a business, you can grow it, and yes, you can become a millionaire, you can become a billionaire, and these are the kinds of people that we want to bring in here as telecommuters to help us elevate our economy to a place that it can be if we embrace things like education and technology. Now that we've finished the discussion on how we came to this point in time, let's move on to part two. And part two is the path to a diversified economy and how do we go about becoming essential. Nothing happens with one person. I've got a wonderful team member here. Her name's Laura James. She's our Vice President of Innovation, and I'd like to introduce Laura and bring her into the conversation about how it is that we go about becoming essential.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Joe. I'm happy to be here.
So I've got some topics here that I'd like to see what you think about. It's some things that we certainly know we need. We've known we've needed these things for many years, and we just seem to inch toward them. Yet we don't really knock the ball out of the park and make them happen. Upgrading our workforce. All the people that we've brought into the iHub, the few attraction candidates, they want to know what our workforce is. And they never can find enough techies and things like that. So how do we go about upgrading our workforce?
The number one thing that's affecting our workforce is the fact that we're not able to educate all of our best and brightest young people here locally. There's an absence of STEM degrees. So when bigger companies are looking for a place to locate, they need people to fill these roles, because moving a lot of people here and importing them is nice, but we also want to create career paths for the people who are living here. So we absolutely have to be able to teach them while they're here so they don't need to go away to find work.
Yeah, exactly. And you touched on the next one is we need to raise the educational attainment of the Valley. And there's a couple of ways to do it. If you bring in 5 planes full of PhDs, you've raised the educational attainment if they stay. But that limits it to the number of people that you bring in. So all of the efforts that CVEP has led to try and get us to a comprehensive 4-year university. We're engaged with COD, trying to help them, bring in more relevant training that helps people into better jobs. So what else? You have school-age children. What else do we need to do to have the pipeline built so that the workforce of the future are people who were born here?
There are so many things that intertwine in this discussion, right? So having more engaged parents helps the public school system train up better students. Teachers can't have everything fall on their backs. And of course, now that people are educating their kids at home with the help of teachers remotely, people understand what a difficult job teachers have. But when people are having to cobble together 2 or 3 jobs to make their livings or to make their mortgage payments or their rent payments, they don't have the time to be engaged at the school level or with their kids working. So, this all ties together.
Yeah, everything is sort of connected, and you made my next point for me, which is we need to have an increase in the median household income. We did an analysis a few weeks ago on housing affordability for locals. Our housing affordability index is 186, meaning that the median family needs to get an 86% raise to afford the median home. So we don't really have a lot of entry-level homes available. So, how is it that we can do things that will increase the median family income? And I would suggest that putting 30 people in the house is probably not a good way to do it, because you can do it that way, but that doesn't really achieve the goals.
Sure, and there are a lot of benefits, that come along with increasing that income. People can start to buy their time back, which supports local businesses. And by buy your time back, what do I mean? Things that maybe you do yourself, home maintenance or lawn care or poop care. You start to all of a sudden be able to hire people to do those things, which means small business owners have opportunities. It's another one of these cyclical things. And of course, we know that the path to individual wealth is quite often through home ownership. People can only afford to get into homes if they can afford to save to get into a home. So this really impacts people for the long term if their incomes aren't high enough to get them on a path towards ownership.
And, as we went through in part one, our largest employment sector is leisure and hospitality. It's directly responsible for 25% of our jobs and indirectly for roughly another 25%, and the pay is under $30,000. The average, or the median home in the Coachella Valley is $510,000, and under 30 cannot afford 510. It can't even come close. So maybe we need to have people having different jobs. Some jobs pay more than others. For instance, our highest paying sector here is government. But tech, a kid with an engineering degree, 22 years old, never had a job in their life, 100,000. So is changing the type of businesses that we have that are available for the same people. Is that an important part of upgrading the income?
Of course it is, and I'm all about personal choice and liberty, and you know me personally, so you know that to be true. It's not just about eliminating jobs that start out at low wage and allow limited opportunity. It's about adding to that mix so that people have a choice. People may want the flexibility that comes along with some of the jobs that maybe offer lower hourly wages or something like that, but other people want the choice to have something that offers a real career path towards, management or eventual ownership for their own tech business or whatever. There need to be options for people.
Yeah, and you can start out at an entry level in one business sector and move to a different business sector, and you can elevate yourselves in all kinds of ways. And how much will diversification of the economy desensitize our retail community and our service community to future economic shocks?
The possibilities are almost infinite. When you see a huge percentage of the workforce in one area, it's the same reason we diversify our portfolio if you're an investor, right? You don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Because when a shock does come along, like came along with the housing crisis, and everyone in that sector or anything related to it, people who worked in the mortgage industry or in construction, they all felt that shock. Right now, it's more focused on anything that's face-to-face and service-related. So, we just need to, again, sort of spread out the opportunity, have lots of choices, and when a fewer percentage of people are affected directly, then you have fewer people who are out of work, a larger percentage of people who are still able to go out and spend their money and enjoy their lives and support small businesses.
Yeah, exactly. And, our theme this year and our summit is becoming essential. And what a lot of people don't realize is that means you're needed by businesses and people that are elsewhere. We can't just be essential to each other. We need to be essential in our place in the world.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to what we're exporting, to use language that's not real specific to our economic development field. We might talk about traded sectors and non-traded sectors and local economies and such, but really we're talking about exporting.
Exported from the valley.
From the valley.
Not necessarily from the country.
That's right. We don't have to go across international lines, but we need to make things and sell things that people need all over the country. And right now we do have some exports, and they are memories and Instagram photos and wonderful experiences that people come here for. But those are also things that got really shut off with this pandemic.
Yeah, they're artifacts of tourism.
Of course, yeah. We also export some of our most talented youth. And, probably next down the line is our agricultural sector, which is essential, but it pales revenue-wise to what we export in tourism. So, we need to be making products or services that people need everywhere, not just here.
Yes, I agree. And, as we move forward, one of the things that CVEP's looking at and actively participating in is trying to bring in telecommuters. And in particular, we need telecommuters who better themselves by coming here because it's less expensive than the coast. But we need to bring people in that better all of us. So high value, high wage people are the ways to go. So let's shift a little bit over to this thing called business attraction, because in economic development circles, this is thought to be, that's the home run. Poaching a smokestack, you go out, you put out the bait, you get the fish, you reel it in, and you bring in a big factory from somewhere. I think we all know that this is not something that is very possible in California because we're just not a business-friendly state for manufacturing and things like that. So, I have this slide here, and it's called the attraction algorithm. So, I've probably, and you've taken more academics in this than I have, but I've tried to do it more. So, you know what the number one thing is? I'll see what you think on what's the first question any business, whether it's a person wanting to start one or a big place wanting to go somewhere, what's the first thing they look for?
Whether they can do it there or not.
Exactly. Exactly. If you can't do it there, you don't relocate to that location. So that's number one. What do you think is the second thing they look for?
I don't know. What is the second thing?
Okay, so I can do it there. Should this place be a finalist? Is it
Gotcha.
optimally the best place or close to the best place to conduct this business?
And that's both for the business and the employees.
Yes,
Yeah.
and part of that is the workforce. Part of it's the cost of living. Do you know what finally comes into play once you prove you can do it? And once it's not only can be done, it can be done at a profit, and it competes well with everybody. Do you know what's number 3?
Then we probably get down to the quality of life stuff.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's right. If you can't do it, the fact that the sun shines all day, all year, doesn't matter. You have to be able to do the business. So, yes, that's exactly it. That's where you get into safety.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing because quite often, these first 2 lines of decisions are made by the entrepreneur. These lifestyle decisions are made by the entrepreneur's spouse or the caregiver to the children of the officers of the company. So, housing affordability, it plays in.
Sure.
I'm one of the few people who moved to Southern California because I could afford a house here. I moved from the Bay Area down to Southern California because houses were cheap. For what that's worth, they were within my means. Educational opportunities. Does it help us not to have a 4-year college?
Oh, no.
With attraction? That was one of the 5 things that Amazon said they had to have. A system of universities to deliver STEM degrees. But that's still a lifestyle piece. And then last, and maybe least in this decision, is recreational and cultural opportunities. The things that we excel in the Coachella Valley don't matter unless you can do the job and it's one of the best places that you can do it. So what are some of the things that are needed to be able to do the jobs?
Well, we talk about these things all the time. Anyone who's ever heard Joe talk has heard him talk about bandwidth, our internet infrastructure. We're looking at 5G coming down the pipe. We don't want to be left out there because we don't want to be the place where people come to relax on they're only relaxing socially, right? They're not,
Exactly.
They're still working from their hotel rooms or from their phones. So you want to slow down, but you don't want to be completely cut out when you're out here working. And then getting around as well. Transportation is something we talk about all the time. We're a very car-dependent valley. There are public transportation options, and they are improving, but they pale in comparison to what is offered in some other regions.
All right, so as a mother of school-age people, and you moved here, is there anything that I haven't brought up that would be on your list?
Boy, that's a good question. There are limited opportunities for young people out here. That's something that I think we are moving forward in. But young people want to be able to see the future that's pretty immediately in front of them, right? They're not like, my son is a senior in high school. He's not looking 10 years down the road to what his career is going to be like. He's looking at what's happening next month and maybe months from now, tops. So that's learning opportunities, even from a high school student. He actually cares about those things. Recreational opportunities, not having to drive to, the Inland Empire, further Los Angeles, or even the high desert, up to
Or to Phoenix to run an across-country meet for that
Oh my
matter.
gosh, yeah, we just did that.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on. I've just got one more set of things here in this sector, and it's the opportunities for job growth. And there's some specific categories, and I think the first and most important one is the snapback. What do we recover from where we were in February? Our jobs were here. I think there were 187,000 some odd jobs, people on payrolls, and it went down to maybe 120.
Yeah.
We lost about a third.
Yeah.
And we've only come back up by about a third. That's California statewide is up by a third. So yeah, we were at 180 something thousand. We went to a 120 something thousand. We're probably at 140 or so now. So we're still at a shortage of 40 something thousand that can be recovered. So what do you think about the prospects for recovering some of these jobs? What do you think it's going to take to just get back to where we were, or will we?
I don't know that we will in the short term. If we're talking about recovering all of the jobs lost in leisure and hospitality, I think it's going to be several years. So we may recover jobs in pure numbers, but I think they will be different jobs. Something I was talking to someone about just earlier this morning is that, during this pandemic, CVEP has seen inquiries mostly about immediate direct assistance trying to stay alive from businesses. Only just within the last few weeks have we started to see a bit of an uptick in people looking to start businesses. So that might, we hope, signal that there's a little bit of hope for a recovery, that people might actually have customers to buy whatever it is that they're hoping to sell. And it also might be out of necessity. If people see that their jobs aren't coming back in hospitality or personal services, then they're going to be looking for other opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. I remember the late 70s, when guys with last names like Gates and Jobs and all couldn't find jobs.
Yeah.
They had nothing to do because the economy was in shatters coming out of the Vietnam War. And I think interest rates were 25, 30%.
Yeah.
All of these companies that are giants on Wall Street now, most of them started in the late 70s because there was a new thing out there. It was called a computer. Mm-hmm. It went from, the laboratory into people's hands. And so there's a great big chance for organic entrepreneurship to come back and to rescue the losses that came from the businesses that will not snap all the way back.
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity. And anytime you have a real significant change in circumstances, which now we've changed everything that we do. You and I are sitting 7 feet apart right now for a reason. As people realize that there are new ways that everything has to be done, it does create opportunity to step in and solve those problems. And that's what we've been doing at CVEP and with our iHub program for the last almost decade, is helping people make businesses out of those things that solve people's problems.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, another opportunity for us, especially here in the Coachella Valley, we're one of the only places that has prices that are upper Midwestern, mm-hmm. but lifestyle that's Californian. A lot of the parts of California that are inexpensive, you'd think you were somewhere else. It doesn't feel like California. We do. And so this migration of people out of San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and I've read articles that there have been more than 1 million people leave those 3 cities, not each in total, 1 million people. And they're going to places that meet their lifestyle requirements, but that elevate their ability to live. The East Coasters are going to Florida or whatever, but we're seeing people coming in here, even from New York City. Yeah. So what are the drivers that would make them want to stop in Greater Palm Springs? Assuming they've decided to leave the coast, how do we get them to take our exit and not just keep on going until they get to Arizona or Texas, because there's some advantages over there tax related.
So that's part of our job, is to collect those people as they're heading east on Interstate 10. Make sure they don't make it to Arizona. We want them to stop here in Greater Palm Springs. One advantage that we have is that many of these people have vacation here. How often have you talked to someone and said, oh yeah, my grandma had a place in Palm Springs and we used to spend, Christmas with her every year. And people build memories here over the course of a lifetime. They're drawn to the place. There is certainly something special about our region. And they're familiar enough with it to want to look into whether they can do what they need to do here. And like we've talked about, the cost of living here is high for some average workers, but certainly low compared to Los Angeles or San Francisco or these other areas. Not to mention the fact that, especially when we're in quarantine or on lockdown and you're working from home, you can work from anywhere, and you can go outside and take a walk in your neighborhood and not have to worry about being shoulder to shoulder with people, because we've got the space to spread out here. It's one of the magical things about this place.
Yeah, I agree. So we're poised, if we can bring it to our collective ability to take advantage of the opportunity. The virus of the century really can be the opportunity of the century for the Coachella Valley. So I'm glad you're here with us at CVEP. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
All right. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
So we've discussed what our economy was before COVID. We've discussed a path out. But what's really vital to us, and really to everybody, is that we come out of COVID better than we went in. And this is up to us to do. And there's a lot of things about it. We've learned so much from what we've gone through. Number one, I used to drive about 200 miles a week. But the fact that I can work at home, I drive about 30 miles a week. And I do that for fun. I could get by without it. But that means I am emitting 85 to 90% less carbon from the back end of my car into the atmosphere. That makes it a better place. All of these efforts that we've put in, additives in gas, solar, wind, all of these things that we've done to try and be environmentally responsible, stopping driving is going to do more for the positive parts of the planet than all of that put together. So we're going to come out of this thing cleaner. Do you remember in the spring, sitting out back and seeing stars that you couldn't even see before? That's only possible because of going through this and learning how to live without driving so much. We have enhanced our awareness. People who were oblivious before, they're listening now. They're learning. They're learning what needs to be changed to make more good things happen, and that's critical to the thought process. Our survival instincts have been really elevated because they have to be. Some more than others, but we've gotten a whole lot better. And guess what? We can sit home, and when we're home, we can learn more things. You can take a Spanish class online. You can take coding online. You can come out of this with a higher skill set as a more valuable person, and I really hope that most of us have done so. From the Coachella Valley's perspective, our workforce has already improved from people coming in from the coast that have educations and means. So we're already benefiting from that, and our real estate markets reflect it in the prices and in the amount of time it takes to sell a house. Houses sell now in hours or days, not months or quarters. And the other thing is that we have more flexibility to integrate work and life together. So our homes are now really our castles. We don't all have to have an office every day for everything that we do. And all of these things make it a better lifestyle, and it's better for the planet, and it's better for us. So we will emerge from this a whole lot better. Now, we talked earlier with Laura about how does the Coachella Valley stack up? What are the things that we need to do? What is the attraction algorithm? How do we stack up? Critical infrastructure. We still need better bandwidth. We still need better transportation. We still need improved school systems and full university degrees to be done. We have to always work on becoming a competitive place to do business. And just because you're a competitive place in 2020 doesn't mean you'll stay competitive in 2021. You come out of this better by making yourself better and better every day that you live for the rest of your life, and by trying to do things to make the people around you become better at their jobs, at their life, at living and doing things that elevate themselves and elevate all of those around them. When you have more time to enjoy that nice lifestyle that the Coachella Valley offers. Our critical needs, however, will remain bandwidth, transportation, education, and a business atmosphere that is conducive to attracting high-value people and high-value small businesses to the valley. So we spoke earlier about the Real Estate Affordability Index in the Coachella Valley. That 186 number is based on the median family income of people who are already here. I did the same calculations from the viewpoint of a senior software engineer in the Silicon Valley who's making $220,000 a year. And that's what a senior software engineer makes, according to Indeed, in the Silicon Valley. All of our 9 cities and our entire valley are unbelievably affordable to that person. The indexes range from 27 to 53. But to that person with that family household income coming into this market, our houses look as cheap to them as houses in the middle of Kansas might look to us. So we have a very strong attraction for family-minded professionals with educations that are high earners. The game changers, the things that we really need to concentrate on, COVID hasn't changed those very much. We had needs before, and we have needs after, and they're business needs. We very badly need a comprehensive university system. We cannot continue to be the only area in the United States that has 500,000 people living here that doesn't have a 4-year university that offers all degrees. We need STEM degrees. We need adult retraining in coding and other things so people who are displaced from jobs can go into better jobs with better skills so that they can have better lives. We need state-of-the-art communications. We called out the region for bandwidth deficiencies 2.5 years ago at the summit. It's gotten better. At that time, the average bandwidth was about 25 megabits per second. Now it's 100, it's creeping toward 200. But we need to keep pushing that envelope until it gets into the gigabit range, and we need to push for 5G. Because other places that are relevant, other places that are essential will all have these means of communication. We can't be a digital desert. We can be a lovable, nice place to be. We are the desert, but we don't need to be devoid of technology tools that it takes to do the jobs in the future. We need a competitive K through 12 education system. This is something that we don't advertise, but our K through 12 doesn't stack up as well as we would like it to. So we need continuous improvement to get beyond the thresholds to which people that are moving in here who have kids see our public school systems as a viable alternative and a wonderful place for them to send their children to become adults. We need a regional focus on everything. We have 9 cities. They all have their own personalities. They all have their own whims. We have 9 city managers, 9 chiefs of police and 9 chiefs of fire, and we pay a lot of money for having these 9 cities. I believe that we spend about as much on city managers or more than Los Angeles does. We have 1/20th of the number of people that Los Angeles does. But we have to work together as a region to be able to attract businesses, to be able to attract the kinds of people that we need to help us elevate our business society. We need transportation options. Now, first thing we need, and you know what? We've had a couple of wonderful, wonderful things come out of the CVB's work. We have flights that are going to be to the Bay Area. If we're expanding into technology, people need to travel to the Bay Area. They're going to be able to do it now. It hasn't always been the case. This is a big win. These new flights that have come in are going to help us be able to attract companies that have businesses that are done in the other places where technology is, whether it's Austin, Houston, Denver, or the Bay Area. The Salton Sea. We need a solution and we need action. I hear it's a $7 billion type of cost. That's about a third of a bullet train. So please, let's do what we need to do at the state level to fix that environmental mess at the Salton Sea. And the other thing that we seriously need is a ubiquity of vision and awareness in this valley. If 90% of our population isn't even aware that we don't have a four-year university, that's a problem. We need to educate our own people about what we need to do to make life better and to make life more sustainable and elevating all the way into the future. But first, we absolutely have to reestablish the cash cow that comes from hospitality and tourism, because that's where the taxes have come from. That has made this the beautiful place that it is. It's made it a wonderful place to live, but we need to elevate those people who have worked in that industry, who can now elevate their own job talents and do better. Now, the vision for the future, it's really not that much different than it was before COVID hit. We just need to have a heightened awareness of what to do to achieve what we want to be. As soon as we're given the go-ahead, the Palm Desert Digital iHub is ready to open. The bandwidth problems are solved there. We're tied into the Scenic Line, which has bandwidth that can be expanded up to 100 gigabits per second. That is state of the art. And if we have the need for it there, the equipment's in place to do it. We're launching a telecommuter attraction campaign. This video is part of that campaign. So if you're in the Bay Area and you're watching, think about Palm Springs. Think about Palm Desert. Think about our 9 cities. We can offer you a better lifestyle if you can work from home than you can ever have in the Bay Area or on coastal California, or even if you're in New York. So please consider us. We're a good option for you. We're going to expand the Indio iHub as the College of the Desert increases their footprint in Indio. We're going to have an iHub that's larger and fully equipped, even with the Scenic Line in that facility down there. So we're going to have iHubs from one end of the valley to the other to foster entrepreneurship, which is always the father of the wealth generation. Our summit focus this year is becoming essential. And if you really boil it down, why did we get hit so hard? Because of the choices that have been made in the past to put all of our eggs in the basket that is not an essential basket. COVID exposed that shortness in what we have that's available to us from a business perspective. We'll continue to maintain our connections with COD as they expand into the West Valley and Indio, and please exercise eternal vigilance for the fundamental needs for prosperity. In the case of the Coachella Valley, those are bandwidth, STEM education, local investment in local businesses, education, and regionalism. On behalf of Palm Springs Life and the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership, I would like to thank our title sponsor, SBEMP Attorneys, and our presenting sponsor, Timo's Air Conditioning and Heating. Thank you for watching.
For Timo's Air Conditioning, the Valley is home, and customers are family. When we opened our doors in 1998, we had one mission: to serve you better every day. 2 decades later, that mission still stands. And when it comes to AC replacement, more homeowners choose Timo's over every competitor. Hard work, honest prices, and old school values. That's the Timo's way.